I'm done with your shit, Diddy Kong! You're dead!
Can we agree? Cheeky, shit-grin nutbuster that makes any match with him a banana
was meant to be
an annoying. Too long I've put up with this fool. This ridiculous design big-eared freak.
Come on, bitch! It's Sonic Speed!
So, he's the leader of the bunch. You know him well, but do you, in fact, know his tale? Yeah, that doesn't even rhyme. Why would they put that as the lyric in the song when it doesn't even rhyme? The old Donkey Kong is practically an icon of gaming, with Miyamoto literally naming the character after being a stubborn ape. A Donkey Kong. But at the same time, the one we've come to know today is this one. The one that gave us hard platformers, David Wise, and coconut cream pies.
I'd shower you with
Coconut gums. That hurt.
Funny thing is, this Donkey Kong was only birthed in 1994 for Donkey Kong Country. And heck, even canonically, Nintendo doesn't consider this DK to be their son. They kinda just say it's the grandson of this older DK, but it's like Ned Stark and Jon Snow. That's what I feel like it is. And since then, he's taken a piece of Nintendo's coconut cream pie, forever to be remembered by his callouts of... But here's the thing, I have mixed feelings about the Kong. In Smash, and as we'll go through, his moves are a pretty closed book. What I was always confused about was... look at this. Here's DK in the old Donkey Kong. He's just a hulking great ape, no personality, he's generally just the antagonist of this classic arcade game. And now here he is in Donkey Kong Country, where he's emoting, his eyes are popping out, he's dancing, popping a whip, yeet, what are those? And in the Mario Sports, Kart, party games, he's the same. He says words, he's goofy, and feels like a character. You starting to see what I mean? In Smash Brothers, DK doesn't feel right. I think a big thing is, in Smash, they just made him gorilla. That's it. And I know, he does take moves from appearances of his games, but you can't tell me in like Smash 64 or Melee he looks anything like his other appearances. Even up to Brawl in Smash 4, he doesn't look quite right. The whole point of Know Your Moves in this series is to find out not just the characters' movesets in Smash, but their whole history. What led them up to the point of Smash Brothers to see how they came out, because as you know, Smash Bros is a game that collects all Nintendo All-Stars and even non-Nintendo All-Stars to battle it out, and how they're represented there is pretty important to their series and what they mean to gaming. For Donkey Kong, Smash 64 is all we really need to look at since he's been the same since then to now. Well, that's not entirely true, as some of his moves in Smash 64 to Melee were updated and changed. Down smash, forward smash, and aerials from Smash 64 were changed in Melee. Since we're on it, his down B in Smash 4 was given an aerial version where he just goes pop pop, which it's not very useful, but you know, I like the attention to detail. Oh, and finally in Smash 4, they added his roll attack. They changed it from this stupid ass kick to the thing he actually does in his games. So there you have it, Smash 64 and Melee. All the games leading up to those ones are the only ones that could have grabbed stuff for DK because Brawl, Smash 4, they're pretty much the same type of Donkey Kong with a few exceptions that I already listed. So DK, to figure out why you became the way you were all the way in Smash 64, we're gonna have to go back to your first appearance. Your first appearance. We all know this game, and if you don't, I seriously question how you even got to this video. This is basically the game that gave Nintendo and Mario a name. A little known fact about this trio is that Jumpman, Pauline, and DK is based off of Popeye, Olive Oil, and Bluto. It kinda makes sense in the dynamics of their love triangle, but also the physical and symbolic roles they have in this tried and true narrative. Anyways, what did this DK give present day DK? Well, the name, the species, the chest pounding, and the affiliation with barrels, there's really not much to go into. So, if that weren't enough, we have to go into the 90s, where DK really made his mark on society. So you know what? Let's look at all his content from DKC and everything that came from it. Feature-length presentation, 64 inches, a DK history, every bit of content, BAM!
Bam! Bam! Bam! Bam!
And don't forget,
Bam!
jeez, look at all this DK content. He was getting as bad as Sonic. What the heck were you doing, DK? Like you had so many weird things. What's this TV show starring skinny North American Mario and Donkey Bob Kong Pants? Like, I mean, this was 1986, but oh my god. And what the heck are these comics? See, the history with these is that they were exclusively made for the German version of Europe's version of Nintendo Power, if you can understand that. These comics starred characters from SNES and N64 games and took them on adventures that sort of paralleled with those of the games, but some of them were completely made up and they got pretty weird.
Alright, so here's a weird one. DK, Diddy, Cranky, and Dixie, they're all chilling on DK Island, minding their own business, having a good old time, until they hear on the news that the world is starting to have an intense climate change. Everything's freezing over and they don't know what the problem is, so they all set out on a journey to stop some weird foreigners from freezing the earth. Hold on a second.
All the Kongs being there. The freezing of the world. The foreigners coming from literally nowhere to do it. It's the story to Tropical Freeze. Retro took the story of Tropical Freeze from some stupid German comic of Donkey Kong. What? So suffice to say, the 80s and 90s is when DK was really popular. After all, Super Mario World and Donkey Kong Country were some of the best-selling games on the Super Nintendo, which can explain their rise to stardom in TV shows, spin-offs, and loads of merchandise. But, as mentioned, the DK we've all come to know only came through Donkey Kong Country. This essentially was a reimagining of the character, giving him a fresh new series and identity. This series of games gave DK a wealth of new abilities and characteristics. In fact, just like Diddy Kong, we can pinpoint many of the moves he has in Smash from this game alone. Right from when he enters battle, we see him pop out of his signature DK barrel. These things have been a staple since the very first Donkey Kong game. And in Donkey Kong Country, they are both an item as well as a way to get your extra man back, or Kong. DK appears the same as he does in the game, popping out in a somersault, except in Smash he also flexes his very large wow. His stance, jump, double jump, walk, crouch, hit stun animation, and run are almost one-to-one with that of Country and are pretty much the same through all the Smash games. His down special is similar to this ground attack in Donkey Kong Country, except in Smash it can be held indefinitely, and in there it's only a 1-2 step. As mentioned in the Diddy Kong video, Rare attempted to make the Kongs akin to actual primates so they could do justice to the animals, so they went to the zoo to get some nice on-the-field notes about gorillas and how they acted, except they realized animals in captivity don't do shit. So they based their movement off of horses. Ew. There are plenty of other little things that they took from DKC too. For example, Smash 4 gave us a DK that had eyes literally pop out of his head, which is a nod to the few times that this happened in DKC. Also, one of his victory animations. It's taken straight from when you win a bonus game, as well as the actual music you hear too. His taunts have less concrete references, but the one he's had since Smash 64 could be a reference to the actual faces he makes in Donkey Kong. Him beating his chest is also in the original Donkey Kong, but it's also an idle pose he does in Donkey Kong Country, which looks more similar. And his item and cargo grab. We see this when he grabs and throws barrels in Donkey Kong Country, and in Smash it actually mimics the way he holds them over his head and throws them. And he's kinda got an expressionless, deep glare when he does it, like he almost knows his own fate as he's grabbing them and as he's plummeting to his own demise. Oh hey, and even Sakurai knows that this move will make you cry. Translated by Source Gaming on the original Melee website. Go hit him up! It's also worth mentioning that though DK is a gorilla, he moves pretty fast. And this was carried over from Donkey Kong Country to Smash Brothers. And that's really it. This game is really one of the only ones where DK takes his moves from. All we have to look at now are other DK appearances, content, and spin-off Mario games. His up special, Spinning Kong, seems to be based off of Dixie Kong's Spinning Hair Hover, where she does a similar movement, except she descends, and it's with her hair. This is actually very similar to DK's recovery, where it's not really good for going up, but it can cover a lot of distance horizontally. His side special, where he smashes his opponents into the ground, is also nothing concrete. From what it looks like though, Sakurai added it in Melee because it was very slapstick, very true with DK's original games. Giant Punch is a bit of a mystery for me too. Some suggest it's from the Donkey Kong Country show, you know, that horribly animated, oh my, turn that off. I don't know, it doesn't seem too convincing to me. It could be a Peachy booty situation, where it's one of the largest parts of their model, so they made a lot of moves surrounding it. Finally, there's his final smash, which, due to Brawl's time of release, had some inspiration from Donkey Konga and Donkey Kong Country Beat. Jungle Beat, not Jungle Beat, fuck. Which are rhythm-based games that utilize the DK bongos. So, anything else we can rule out? Well, I mean, he was in Mario Kart 64, and that was released before Smash 64 and Melee, but all he did there was sit in a cart and do this. That's it. It's possible that they took some stuff from Mario Party 1 and DK64, except that's a bit of an unknown. There are definitely moves in DK64 that look like DK's forward air and his old dash attack. Just it could actually be that DK64 took it from Smash, considering the fact that it was released after Smash.
Okay, I gotta get up for this one. So, DK64 and Smash 64 were most likely developed around the same time. They released within a year of each other, so it's likely and possible that Sakurai could have looked at DK64 while in development and put it into Smash Brothers. At the same time, it supposes another problem that has followed the DK franchise for quite a while. You see, Rare, the people that made that 1994 Donkey Kong Country, is in England, and Nintendo is in Japan. So, while there's also a language barrier, there's a distance one too. Donkey Kong essentially has two parents. The original DK, released in 1980s, and the one made for DKC. And this poses a problem with how to represent him in Smash. It's kind of interesting, actually. So, maybe this is the reason DK is so poorly communicated in Smash Brothers. He's an amalgamation of the two once you think about it, because while you can't have one, you can't have the other. DK is a mess. He's almost as bad as some characters that got a reboot like Sonic and Conker and Spyro. Ugh, DK, you're... Where is he? Where's the DK? Okay, hold on. No, we're gonna have to stop the... Where is it? I swear I left DK on this shelf. I didn't take him off. I didn't put that there.
Finally, I can have you.
You can talk? You're just an amiibo.
I'm more than that. Time to take you to hell. Relax. You act like you know cat talks so well. It isn't funny.
No. You gotta hear me out, please. I didn't... No, it's a misunderstanding.
No, you kill my nephew. No, you moves as a fucking disgrace. If you has last words, you can join in too. Put your hands together if you accept your fate, as we crush your face with oranges and grapes.
No, I'm serious. Put your weapons down. Let me finish what I was saying.
You has one last chance.
I suppose it's not fair to say DK is like these other disgusting reboot characters, because unlike them, DKC was a really successful reboot. And it also tells us something about how they put him in Smash. Smash 64 was never always Smash 64. It began as Ryu or Dragon King, but some of you already knew that. It was developed by Sakurai and Mr. Iwata himself. But at the start of the game, it didn't have Nintendo characters. When they were going to show a prototype of their game, they kinda just finagled in Mario, DK, Samus, and Fox to show off their game and possibly make it a Nintendo All-Star Fighter. Now, they didn't have permission from Miyamoto or other Nintendo higher-ups to do this, but, you know, the risk was worth it. And it's interesting how DK was one of those first four characters. It's easy to understand why they put these other three, but DK walks on his hands and arms. He would be a lot harder to put into this game. They could have put someone else, but they put DK. I think that's because he's an icon of Nintendo, an icon of Nintendo's past and their successes. And when we look at him in Smash, that's how he's represented. He's not represented as one DK or the other. He's represented as a DK anyone can look at and know. No matter what kind of gamer comes around and sees you in Smash Brothers, every base will be covered. You are the perfect iteration of Donkey Kong for all types of gamers, and Sakurai knew that.
Relax. What's wrong? You make one hell of a guy. I isn't gonna kill you.
Yeah, I'm glad we worked through that together. Get him, cat!
No.
Thank you for watching this Know Your Moves. If you liked it, give it a like down there, and I recommend going to watch some other ones because, I have a whole collection of them. Maybe you'll find your character, and if you don't find it, you can always recommend one to me. But I do have a list, and I keep true to it, so you better wait like a year till your character comes. But, thank you, thanks for watching, I feel like this was one of my better Know Your Moves, and I feel like it's a really good one. It's showing my potential as a creator. I have always liked doing that creative, filming shit. I've just never done it in a long, long time. And I'm like, you know what? I really want to put that into my videos. Sure, it'll take longer. Sure, it'll take longer to make the videos, and it'll be a lot more work than needed, but you know what? I want to do some fun shit. Any old bean eater can go and do these videos with the text flying everywhere in the pictures, but you know what? It takes some true dick sucking to get to the point where you can do some cool floating Donkey Kong shit and beheading Ned Stark. I gotta watch my Game of Thrones. I'm gonna see you on the flip side. Take it easy, everybody. Thank you for watching. You make my life worth living, so take it easy.